It is Wednesday, September 21st. I am first warning meteorologist Eric Burris. This is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week and chat about what's going on in the world of weather. And as you could imagine, the tropics this morning are dominating our Coffee Talk. The top two things that we're watching: Hurricane Fiona, a major Category 4 storm pulling away from the Turks Caicos and lifting into the central and eventually North Atlantic. And boy, wait until you hear where that thing could go. Plus, Invest 98. We are going to be putting the box, boom, on the bottom left corner of your screen throughout the broadcast, just to make sure that you've got every piece of Invest 98 covered. And even while we're not talking about it, we're showing it. So lots to talk about. But before we get to the tropics, I do want to make sure to talk about our local forecast, because we do still have our own weather conditions to deal with. So let's look outside live, and there's a shot. Some clouds off in the distance here as we peek out over our tower cam network. Looking over to Altamont Springs, it is not a bad start to the day. Temperatures out the door, a little warm, a little muggy. 75 in Orlando. 77 degrees in Kissimmee. We're at 72 now up in Ocala, 73 degrees in Palm Coast. So it is a little warm, it is a little muggy, and just as I expected, we're watching showers coming in. Let's zoom in on our first warning live Doppler radar. And as that live radar is sweeping through, you can kind of see the rains moving in. Daytona Beach down through Port Orange, Daytona Beach shores, New Smyrna Beach. If it's not raining now, it will be raining shortly. We take you into West Volusia County, and you can see the very heavy rainfall kind of just on the north side of downtown DeLand, working over Bearsford Avenue, kind of getting out toward Forest Hills, Lake Catherine. So a little bit of rainfall for you this morning. We're going to keep that in the mention over the course of the day today. So here's a look at our day planner forecast. It's a lovely start with those coastal showers around. Okay, perfect. Then by lunchtime, we build those temperatures up. 85 degrees, 90 degrees by 3 p.m. Showers, even a few thunder showers, start getting going, and we'll continue to work on through. So let's take a look at our hour-by-hour forecast using Futurecast. There's this morning. We clearly see those coastal showers impacting us. That continues through lunchtime. The good news here is that none of that is anticipated to be all strong or anything to that effect, so that certainly is good news. Watch through time, though, early afternoon. That's when we make that shift from coastal showers to thunder showers across the interior, and then eventually 4, 5, 6 o'clock, the rains will come to an end. And today is kind of the beginning of a completely new weather forecast pattern where we're starting to taper off the overall rain coverage. We're starting to get to a drier weather scenario. So definitely some good news there in terms of our local forecast. Let's look at the 7-day forecast and just put it all together. You'll notice today's rain coverage sitting, and I'll pop off that box just briefly here. You'll notice that rain coverage today sits at 40%, but we're dropping it Thursday, tomorrow, the first day of fall. And look at that. Rain chances continue to go down. Did I say today was Tuesday? This is where my brain is at. If I said Tuesday, then I apologize. Yeah, it's obviously not Tuesday. Good gravy. So there you go, though. Rain chances going down. Tomorrow, the first day of fall, we'll continue to drop the rain chance. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, rain chance goes down. Then by early next week, we'll start to pick up the rain chances and get back to normal. We are still in the rainy season. We have not cleared out of that just yet. So, even though fall is here, what I do think is funny is because of a lack of rain, we're actually watching those temperatures going up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What's going on? Why this kind of interesting little weather pattern? Well, believe it or not, we are drier thanks to Fiona. Fiona being off of our, let's try this one. Fiona being off of our east coast actually takes and robs the moisture from us atmospherically. So as that passes by, these next couple of days, we are going to notice our rain chances going down. And with that subtlety of a northerly wind, the mornings may feel just a little bit nicer. Steve says it must be Tuesday, September 32nd. Man, it feels like a September 32nd. If you watched like an evening coffee talk from a couple of days ago, you'll get that. If not, it's okay. It wasn't that funny to begin with. So anyway, that's the interesting scenario in our forecast. Speaking of Fiona, let's talk about it. 8 a.m. advisory, winds are at 130 miles an hour. This dot is dot a dot beast. This is a massive hurricane, category 4 intensity, pressures at 937 millibars. That is a deep area of low pressure. It is a powerhouse. Really glad that it's ramping up as it's pulling away from the islands. All of the devastation of Puerto Rico, and it was a category 1 storm as it moved through there. Incredible. Just incredible stuff. So that's the storm system as it is. Here's a look at the forecast over the next couple of days from the National Hurricane Center. Staying well off to our east, thank heavens. Getting close enough to Bermuda. And then here's what is so interesting to me. The really interesting point is, yes, it gets near Bermuda as a category 4 storm. Bermuda, though, now thankfully out of the cone of confidence. All right. Follow along with me. Saturday morning, category 3, off the coast of like Maine. Then it starts to lose tropical characteristics, but not really intensity. And it's moving through like Nova Scotia and the Canadian Maritimes as that L means that it's a non-tropical low, but it's still powerful. We're talking about 70 mile per hour winds on Sunday morning, which means Saturday night, you're talking 100 mile per hour winds. I mean, this is going to be a beast for our friends up there in Atlantic coastal Canada. It's going to be a remarkable scenario, and not good for that anyway. All right. Kenneth says that you're going to send me a flux capacitor modification so I can recover a lost day. Did I type it wrong? I don't even know. Holy crow, I typed it wrong. Why is my brain not working? Why do I type it wrong? Like, what is wrong with me? My apologies, guys. Sorry. All right. There we are. All right, so that's a look at Fiona. Okay? Any questions, comments, concerns? Let's move on to Gaston. This is a storm system, thankfully, that will not impact us at all. Here's a look at the storm system. You can see it spinning. It's up near the Azores, between Bermuda and the Azores. The storm system, winds are at 65 miles an hour. It's a decent little storm. It's going to continue tropical storm intensity, getting awful close to the Azores, and then kind of loop back around. It's a mess of a cone. So there's that. Widening the perspective, in addition to, you've got Fiona there on the left, you've got Gaston on the right, or kind of center, I should say. Then there is 1, 2, 3 areas. What? This very clearly is the peak of hurricane season. So let's just take it one at a time, okay? The system coming off the coast of Africa has a medium 50% likelihood of developing, has not been dubbed in Invest. Then you've got this guy here out in the central Atlantic, has a low-end chance of development, has not been dubbed in Invest. And then you've got this guy here, high chance of development, has been dubbed an Invest, and is going to move into the Caribbean. That's what we're focusing on with our little box in the bottom left corner. And frankly, that's going to be something we are going to be focusing on the next several days. Let's look inside and see. This is the latest satellite imagery, and we've been reviewing it there in the bottom left corner. That's the latest satellite imagery for Invest 98, okay? It's starting to overcome the wind shear. Yesterday, it had wind shear and dry air working into the center of circulation, really tore it apart, but the models did not waver. Invest 98 very clearly is something that the computer models want to get going, okay? That means we need to track it. Now, I do want to point out, when we look at the computer models, I will not have a full 6Z run this morning because there were massive computer problems with NOAA and in turn with their supercomputers that run the GFS. So we're going to look at the most recent model data we have and go from there. All right? Mike says models are guidance, not gospel, but that latest Euro model sucks. They all kind of do here recently. All right, so that's the overall forecast. You can see 70% likelihood over the next 2 days' time, 90% likelihood over the next 5 days' time. Okay? It moves into the Caribbean. There's a lot of heat energy. This is going to want to develop. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the models, shall we? There it is, the 6Z run. You don't see it on your screen, but the 6Z run status, it's starting to run. So I'll just show you what we've got for the 6Z run. Yeah, it's run through 33 hours. So that's the most recent. That's as far out as a 6Z run goes. Maybe by the end of Coffee Talk, we'll have something to show. But I'm going to switch to the 0Z because that's the most recent. There's the 0Z run. Okay, so this is the 0Z run, the most recent GFS that we have. It's just because it's as far out as it goes. Let's just kind of look at this through time together, okay? So right where it says down here, bottom corner, forecast high 91, there is the storm system. All right, timestamp 9Z on Saturday the 24th. So you're talking about this being, what is that? That's like 5 a.m. Yeah. All right. So 5 a.m. south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. All right. South of Jamaica here, 8 a.m. Sunday morning. Starting to make a bit more of a northerly turn, definitely intensifying. 0Z, that is Monday evening, September 26th. That is 8 p.m. Tuesday, September 27th. Then getting into the Gulf of Mexico and becoming a beast. I mean, if we look, let me just move to let me tweak this around to the Gulf of Mexico view. Okay. I mean, if we just look at mean sea level pressure, because we don't need to look at anomaly. You know, that's a 934 low. 932 low. Okay? And then kind of looping back around and making landfall. So that's the GFS. That's the most recent run we have. 6Z is running right now. All right, so that's the 0Z. If we just step back in time, 18Z, consistent. 12Z, consistent. 6Z yesterday, consistent, right? And then, of course, the 6Z this morning is just starting to run. So the GFS, consistent that there is something working into the Gulf of Mexico. Obviously, that's not great. Okay, let's switch around and let's look at the European. All right. 6Z is almost done running. It only goes out 90 hours, so I'm just going to go to the 0Z on the European. All right, so here's the European. There, of course, that's Fiona. We'll work through, let it do its thing. Right where it says forecast high 90, you can see the European through, that's Friday 18Z, so that's Friday 2 p.m., keeping it pretty weak south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Starting to intensify it near Jamaica. That's 18Z, so that's 2 p.m. on Sunday. Getting out near the Caymans, that is 0Z, so that's Monday, 8 p.m. Getting near Cuba. Getting very near Florida. And we can just put regular pressure out. We don't need to do the anomaly at this point. So that would be Wednesday, 8 p.m., and that's a 963 low, so a hurricane, decent little hurricane, coming ashore around Florida's southwest coast-ish, right? Obviously, we don't love to see that. That's hour 198. If you go back to the 12Z run, pretty consistent, right? Storm in the Gulf, kind of wanting to recurve, That kind of puts it in the Florida vicinity. A couple of things to note. The models have been ridiculously consistent with this. Ridiculously consistent. That said, we are still talking like 10 days out. So I just want to be very clear. This is an unchanged update. This is an unchanged update to my timeline, okay? Next couple of days, all we're doing is watching Invest 98 and its development paths. Late this week, that's when we're starting to think that development should take place. And that's when we're going to start getting better and better ideas of information, right? Then, by this weekend, I think that our forecast and any kind of impacts, wherever it goes, that's when we're going to start to dial into this, okay? Until then, we just do not know. And I know that, like, we try to be silly, you know. Eddie Rodas always posts, we just don't know, right? And it's like, it's fun to say it. It's a little silly to say it, but it's true. We just don't know. Let me update this graphic real fast. It's easy to get roped up in tropical excitement. It's easy to just kind of get a little nervous of it. But remember, I'm not going to hype it. You shouldn't hype yourself either, okay? We haven't even gotten any recon data yet. That starts today. Tonight at 8 o'clock, the first recon mission flies into this thing. This is where we're going to start to get some really good data. What I'm curious about personally is once we get the recon data going into the computer models, do we then start to see them spread, right? Do we then start to see the overall forecast idea change a little bit? They're all pretty tightly in agreement right now, but what happens once we get more computer model data? That's going to be interesting. Sonia says, I'm calm. I have my hurricane kit ready. I would just need a few snacks for the kids. Absolutely. I've got, beginning a hurricane season, I always pick up all of my supplies. And then, maybe I'll do a little replenish or something mid-hurricane season. But this house is good. And that's what I always say to everybody that I can is like, you don't want to wait until there's a storm because you don't want to have that added pressure. Just prepare, and you're good to go. Annie says this weather is, I want to be on my boat this weekend. This weekend, you'll be good, dear. It's late next week into next weekend that if there was any kind of a threat, that's when it would be. Let's look at the most recent GFS and the most recent Euro together. And keep in mind, and we're going to look at them side by side. And keep in mind, this is the 0Z runs because the 6Z runs have not really started to come in. Okay, 9 p.m. Friday. Little something south of the Dominican Republic, little something south of the Dominican Republic. So the GFS and the European are pretty much in agreement there. We're starting to develop something around Jamaica this weekend. That goes perfectly in line with the timeline that I gave you. The idea of this weekend, we would start to see some development, right? Right. Then we start to recurve this up. Notice that the GFS is a little more bullish with intensity. I mean, that's starting to develop into a real decent hurricane. The European is a little more conservative, keeping it as a stronger tropical storm and then getting over to a hurricane. And then, of course, both models kind of bring it up to the north and get it awful close to yours truly, the Florida Peninsula. Okay, so again, I just want to reiterate, this weekend is when the forecast starts keying in. Until then, we just don't know. Okay? But Eric, what do you really think? We just don't know. All right? Questions, comments, concerns while we're chatting. Got tickets for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party September 30th. It makes me nervous. Well, yeah, sure. I get that. We just don't know. Could be something. Could be nothing. Right? I definitely feel we are better suited to handle them than other places. Well, absolutely. Florida is Hurricane Alley. Yeah. Jeffrey, how long can you keep bottled water? I still have some cases from left from last season. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's a problem at all. I definitely feel we are better suited to... Oh, I already read that. You could tell that I'm tired, y'all. Working Menalfi shift and then waking up still at 5 a.m. is it beats up my head a little bit. I know models are not gospel, but Euro or GFS, which has been more on point? I would say it doesn't matter. Follow me here. It doesn't matter because it's not like you have to trust one solution or another. They're both pretty much in line with each other. Okay? The storm hasn't even formed yet, though. Important point to keep. But they're both pretty much showing the same kind of idea. But the storm system itself hasn't even really gotten going yet. I mean, there's something there, but the models, the models have to chew on something. And if there's not much there, they're just kind of going off of what they can. So it doesn't matter which, and to answer your question, they both stink and they're both great, right? Like there's not one model this year. Everybody used to say the Euro is so much better than the GFS, and it used to be the case. But the models each year get upgrades, and they've both been pretty okay sometimes, and they've both been pretty terrible sometimes. So I wouldn't say that there is one model that outshines with this current flavor of modeling, okay? That's where we're at there. Rebecca's asking, what conditions could make this not survive or not possible? Sure, I mean, it could run right into South America and just completely lose itself. If you look at the ensemble plots, I'll just put all of them up on the screen. Curious as to why the European plots are not coming in. But we'll just use the GFS here, for example. They bring it close to the shoreline, but then they get up around the ABC Islands and then get in here to the Caribbean. So there's that. Yeah. So, I mean, if it were to just go right into South America, yeah, it would have the opportunity to not survive. Mary Joanne says, I have checked my batteries, have candles and matches, lanterns, got 1 case of water, canned goods, and peanut butter, crackers. Hey, there you go. Yeah. What about the ones behind Invest 98? Do the models show them becoming anything? Nothing. Look, when it comes to tropical stuff, there's always stuff to watch. And I would just say that in our case, those are not as threatening as Invest 98 will be. So let's focus on Invest 98. Let's go one at a time. All right? Question Dorothy's asking. Are we having more named storms because of technology, or is NOAA naming storms and hurricanes earlier in their development? It would be because of technology, but remember, we are behind where we were this time last year. It was a bit of a slower start to hurricane season this year, but certainly we are making up for it. Yeah. Ryan, hi Eric, can you explain the microwave graphics? I've seen it before, and it's fine. Just don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, so think of it like an X-ray. It's just looking within the clouds. It's not just looking at the cloud cover, the cold tops, that sort of thing. It's looking at core. There's different channels. That's where that comes in. Is it's like an X-ray or a CAT scan, that sort of thing. Jeremy's asking, when will hurricane hunters fly into it? Today. They take off late this afternoon and get on in there this evening. The first mission from a C-130, and then, of course, we'll have more consistent missions for sure. Yes, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire Day. Do you remember the 21st of September? Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Russ is asking, isn't Fiona creating wind shear so Invest 98 won't be able to get organized? In the near term, yes, it is. It is. But down the line, as Invest 98 gets into the Caribbean, the wind shear absolutely falls off, and that's when we expect it to develop. And that's what the models are saying, for that matter. Yeah. All right. I'm planning to go out of town Thursday, coming back next Saturday. How does Brevard look? I know you don't know much as it is early, but what do you think? I mean, if when is next Saturday on the calendar? What date? Right? Like next Saturday, that would be the 1st of October. May have some rain, may have some crummy weather leading up to that. Arthur, what are the max winds Artemis can withstand on the pad? While I don't know the exact numbers, I would say that if we find ourselves in the cone of confidence for a hurricane, more than likely, I would imagine that NASA officials would start really looking at things. They're currently, by the way, running a fueling test. And through the course of the day today, we'll know a lot more. If today's tests are successful, I guarantee you that NASA is going to hold a press conference and they're going to talk about plans going forward. Tuesday right now is the scheduled date for Artemis. If that continues, I guarantee you they're going to look at, well, what if there is a hurricane heading in? How long does it take? It takes physically like 12 hours to move the thing. But you've got to think, if Tuesday's the launch, if there's a scrub, would they be able to get it back into the vehicle assembly building for safety should this storm threaten? So these are all things I think are going to be questions asked today for sure. For sure. Yeah. Bob says it has a southern tilt axis in the wave envelope, meaning that it's going to hug South America for a minute. Anything is possible until it forms. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But once it is hugging South America, and then as it kind of works its way out of that axis, that's when it's going to get out of the shear envelope, the dry air envelope, and that's when it's going to get going. Bob, question, would you reconsider a trip to Fort Myers with arrival this Saturday? How long are you going? And what are your options to leave if you need to? That's all. Rebecca says, yes, Floridians are so resilient. Hats off to y'all. John, how did Charlie forecast look at this time? Man, I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. I was here in Orlando covering it. We did this last night. So look at where Invest 98 is. It's kind of, hugging South America, okay? And it's not a depression or a storm or anything like that. Let's just look at Charlie's historical data. And let's see what it looked like and where. Okay, so notice Charlie was also a low rider. Charlie did develop into a depression just before getting through the ABC Islands. Then it became a storm, staying south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Then it became a hurricane around Jamaica. Then it strengthened as it crossed Cuba and made its way into southwest Florida. So what's interesting, and we were looking at this last night on Coffee Talk, the evening edition, is that at least track-wise, this is looking similar to Charlie. Every storm's different. They get names for a reason, yada yada yada. But yeah, Charlie was a low rider, and it kind of crossed near Jamaica, which is exactly what the models are showing. If we come down here, I don't know how much of the GFS is in yet, but we'll look at the 6C GFS. It's coming in late. I'll scroll this down. It's kind of following that similar path, that similar trajectory. Yeah, that's as far out as the new 6C GFS goes, but it's kind of it's looking similar. It's looking similar to what Charlie was. So, last night, as soon as we started talking about this, of course, everybody's like Charlie 2.0, and it's like slow down. Nobody said that. Let's see here. I'm putting off my hurricane prep. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Eric, what would the name of this new storm be? So here's where it's interesting, right? It's interesting because we've got so many waves out there. Let's just look at the wide perspective. Eduardo, though, asks, what's the name? So we've got so many waves out there. There's 3 areas that we are watching for potential development. So you have Gaston, which was named yesterday. So you've got Hermine, Ian, and Julia. Those are the next 3 names. I'm not saying that all 3 of these systems get named, but those are the next 3 names out there. All right. It has a tilt. The circulation is frequently assessed at 3 levels, surface, mid, and upper. Yes, that's correct. Jennifer, looks like the Euro run. Yeah, Charlie and the Euro run for sure. Yeah. Bob says, seems like we just did this last night. You have to be tired. I'm exhausted. Yeah, I will tell you that I've got a couple of meetings this morning, and then I'm going to probably try and take a nap before I get into the office today because I'm, as they say, burning the candle at both ends. So, yeah. Oh, there you go, Ryan, quoting me. Ashley, if this were to hit us, when would that be expected? Right. So, the time to the United States, given kind of normal motion, would be late next week, like the 29th, 30th, in that vicinity. Yeah. So, but we don't know that it's going to hit us. We don't know where it's going to go. It is way too early. The remarkable element to this is the fact that the computer models are so in agreement so early. But we just don't know, right? This weekend is when the forecast is going to start to key in. Until that point, just don't know. Carter says, I'd say it's a little too early to call it Charlie before we have definitive storm to track. However, I think it could be an analog track. But we'll have to wait and see. 100, that's exactly, thank you, Carter. That's exactly what I would use it as, an analog. In other words, oh, that's kind of an interesting, like, previous system that's comparable to this. Yesterday, it's so funny. As soon as we were talking about that, there were people that were like, oh my God, it's Charlie 2.0. And it's like, whoa, slow down there, partner. We just don't know. We just don't know. Ay, ay, ay. Bo knows. Who's Bo, Tom? I missed your last night coffee talk. Tried to stay up for it. That's okay. What is the BSR show? The BSR does have a signal of this. Yeah. So there it is. The BSR does have a signal for this. One other interesting element, and we were talking about this yesterday, the A-Bear box. You remember this? Yeah. A lot of the models are putting this into the A-Bear box. Of course, the A-Bear box, especially this one this time of year, the A-Bear box was used and kind of discovered by Mr. A-Bear himself. And the idea is that if hurricanes, particularly strong hurricanes, but if hurricanes move through these boxes, they often like to find South Florida. Examples are Charlie, Francis, Wilma, Irma. There are many, many others on the list. I just picked some previous storms. So that's another kind of anecdotal element that we're watching is, does this move into the A-Bear box? Yeah. Doesn't Cuba break up storms? It can. Depends on where it goes over, how long it goes over. Carolyn, is there a paper on the A-Bear box? There has to be. I'm just going to Google peer-reviewed article A-Bear box. It's got to be something in there somewhere. National Hurricane Center publications. Just, it's not secure. Send anyway. I see papers that he has done, but yeah. I mean, obviously on Coffee Talk, I'll have to look. But Carolyn, do me a favor. If you find the peer-reviewed paper, I would love to read it. I would love to read it. All right. One more time. What would steer it coming down out of the States? So there's going to be this kind of upper level low with a trough that's going to pick it up and recurve it. Which, ironically, is a very similar weather scenario as to what steered Charlie. I can very clearly remember that. That's very clearly what steers that box in particular late in the season. That's what kind of recurves systems into the Gulf Coast. And to answer your question, Carter says, oh, shoot, the BSR, I forgot. Is this part of the LRC that you highlighted earlier this year? Yes. This is part of our 2022 hurricane season forecast. If you're not familiar, real fast, shameless plug. We issue a hurricane season forecast March 1st every year. March 1st every year, we issue a hurricane season forecast. This is from the November 6th part of the pattern. That's what I highlighted. From the November 6th part of the pattern, we highlighted mid-May, storm system came through non-tropical. Late July, storm system came through non-tropical. Late September, question mark. All right? So, yeah, it's there. Kristen's asking if this is named. What would it be named? It would be named probably Hermine. Just have to kind of roll through and see. It's like Spaceballs. Prepare to start preparing. Exactly. Marcia says, thanks, Eric. When I start to get nervous over here in the Nature Coast, I keep thinking about rule number 7. Dennis Phillips is no fool to mention that. And I try to, in my own way, do the same idea, right? Like, we just don't need to worry. All right? We just don't need to worry. We'll watch it. But there's definitely a decent little spin there this morning. It's definitely trying to undergo tropical cyclone genesis. What was Charlie's landfall date exactly? I will never forget it as long as I live. It was August 13th, 2004. The opening day of the opening ceremonies for the Summer Olympics that year. So I was working at another television station here in town covering it. Meanwhile, Wesh was having to make this horrible decision of, do we air the Summer Olympics opening ceremonies or go into hurricane coverage? And obviously you had to go into hurricane coverage. Man, tough. I started to get ready with the basic. Always, yeah. Giovanni, any cat hurricane? It is not a hurricane yet. It is not a tropical storm yet. It is not even a tropical depression yet. It is an invest. It is a tropical wave that we are investigating, which means we're able to run computer models, etc., etc. Mike says check out Wilma's path as well. Very similar to development location. Let's look to Wilma. This is a previous graphic we put together. I mean, Wilma kind of started around Jamaica. So this is going to be a little different than that. Yeah. And then, of course, Matthew. We all remember Matthew. Oh, do we all remember Matthew? Yeah. Maybe this is a dumb question, Amanda says. Never a dumb question. I'm here to help. Never a dumb question. I'm used to snow, not tropical storms. LOL. We're visiting Florida during this potential storm. Would we be better to travel to Orlando earlier than planned or stick out a time in Daytona? Or does it even matter? You know, I always struggle to tell you when to or not to travel when we're talking 10 days out because, like, this could fizzle out completely. This could move to the Panhandle. This could move to New Orleans. This could move to Texas. You know? So if your plans are flexible, yeah, move. That way you move it so you don't even have a worry in your mind, right? But I would be hesitant to do that at this point if it's any kind of a difficult part, just because we just don't know. It's just too early. There's a lot of elements to this, right? Jeffrey says, I hope 98 doesn't get the name Ian. Those ice storms always seem to be bad. I believe the statistic is that the ice storms are the most retired storms. So that's never good. Bob says Levi Cowan will have a video around 12 today. I would suggest everyone watch it. One of the smartest on hurricanes. Yeah. Levi runs the website Tropical Tidbits, which has every bit of weather information you could flipping imagine. It's incredible data. He talks super nerdy. Like, imagine Coffee Talk as kind of like an open discussion, but we get a little nerdy. We keep it pretty much surface. And then if you ask a nerdy question, like, we can deep dive. But we pretty much hang at the surface. Levi does his videos on Tropical Tidbits, and it's mostly, I would say, just nerd stuff. It's very much like, as he's talking, I'm sitting there like, It's talking on the level of scientists. I cannot suggest him anymore. Go, run, don't walk. If you want to get into the truly deep, deep water of tropics, he's your guy. He puts out incredible content. And the website it has all the computer models that we show as well, and you can watch them as they come in. So I cannot underline enough. If you have any weather nerddom, sure, come here for like the bad jokes, the antics, and like surface level stuff, and the interactivity, and we can chat. But if you want to go deep, 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 I'm a television meteorologist. I have to remember the mission of my job. The mission of my job is to broadly communicate a message. The mission of his job is to get into that tropical science and to just dive deep. And I love deep diving, but I also have to understand that my responsibility here in my job is still somewhat of a surface level. So, all right, so that's the new GFS is coming in hot. All right, we're at 150 hours. That's a 945 low. 939 low. 180. I'm just looking to see how far out the new GFS. All right, so that's 189. So our 189 is as far out as the 6Z run goes. There it is. Let's go back a run just to see the trend. So it looks like it may be just a little bit faster. All right, I want to follow this. And my hope is that before Coffee Talk is out, we can at least see where the GFS 6Z is wanting to put it. Frank says you do a fantastic job of weather talk. You make it fun and interesting. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ree says, love Levi. Went to college for meteorology. I understand everything he says. And that's the difference, right? Like Levi can talk so deep that most people are having no idea what he's saying, but like, oh, this sounds really interesting. My goal is to... like you said, Ari, you said, I understand everything he says. My goal is that everybody understands everything I say. And so even when we do take a deep dive, we keep it surface, or at least we try to explain it. So even if we go in depth, we try to explain it. Kenneth says, wow, this is still live. Very nice of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Michael, live in West Palm, but still always watch your weather. Number one. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Hey, I spent the better part of a decade down in West Palm. Barbara, will you explain millibars? Absolutely. You're looking at them right now. Millibars are lines of equal pressure. So the tighter the millibars, the more of a gradient. The more of a gradient, the more of a wind, right? So hurricanes, tropical storms, they are just really tight pressure gradients. Well, really tight pressure gradients mean really big winds, okay? So the tighter the pressure gradient, the stronger the wind, the bigger the hurricane. And that's why when we talk about the tropics, we always show you the pressure. 1024 standard pressure. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, right? So Invest 98 is estimated at 1,009 millibars. That's not all that low. Oh, but Hurricane Fiona, Category 4 hurricane, has a pressure of 937. That is a beast. If you just look at the GFS that's on your screen, that's a 938 low. So the GFS, at least at the moment, at hour 189, is giving you a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. Hour 204. It looks like it's starting to weaken as it's making its way in. Just comparing GFS current to GFS past, maybe a little bit faster. Yeah, all right. There you go. Rebecca says, only following the storm as will affect me personally if it comes to Orlando. You've been fantastic and will be following Coffee Talk from now on. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it. My goal is to, my entire goal in television weather, has been to be a calm voice in potentially scary situations. And so that, if I can do that for any of you, then I am living my dream. And that 100% is the truth. Thank you, Madeline. I appreciate it. Mike says, I know quite a few people with tight pressure gradient. That's funny. Hey, Eric, love watching you. What is Levi's website again? It is tropicaltidbits.org. It's incredible. It is an incredible website. I use that when I'm away from the office to track things. When do the Hurricane Hunter flights go in? Michael's asking. They'll get into the storm about 8 o'clock tonight. So watch my Twitter feed. I will be posting. If you want to be that nerd, go to Levi's website, tropicaltidbits. Is it .org? Or is it .com? Tropical Tidbits is the website. And that's the raw. You'll be watching raw recon data there. I get all that data into my computers as well. I'll be tweeting it out and all that fun stuff. But yeah. .com. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. Seth, thank you very much. Carolyn, haven't found a paper on the A-Bear box. There's got to be something. This can't be. There's got to be something there. A satellite classification technique by Paul A-Bear. Hurricanes in history by Paul A-Bear. Lake temperatures, Paul A-Bear. It's got to be something somewhere. Yeah. All right. So that's where we're at, friends. I will tell you, I will be posting to Facebook and Twitter, of course, over the course of today and the next couple of days. I would say if you like frequent updates, and again, remember my job is to keep it a little surface. I like to go deep dives, but a little surface. Christy's asking about the cold. Yes, I'll talk about that in a minute. I like to do a little deep dives, but my job is surface. So keep that in mind, right? But I'll be throwing more weather content on Twitter than Facebook because of the algorithms. All right. So can you talk about the cold front coming? Christy's asking. So yes. So if we look here, give me a few seconds. I'll just use the 6E GFS just because why not? Let me change the camera view. North America. Let's go to the upper heights. 500. All right. So let's just roll through time here. Okay. All right. So you've got a little storm system, a little trough, a little cold front developing. And what that's doing is that's creating a weakness. So beforehand, you've kind of got high pressure here, which is keeping our storm system in the Caribbean, right? But as soon as that high pressure starts to weaken, there's a little weakness up here, a little upper low. That's what's going to cause Invest 98 to start to want to lift to the north and recurve. The exact timing is all up in the air, right? It's not perfect, but the models seemingly have a pretty decent handle on it. But that's that. As far as any kind of the frontal boundaries that come in before that, they're not doing much to temperatures or anything for us, but we do have some dry days ahead. So that's kind of the overall perspective there. Okay. All right, friends, that's it. It is 8:49. I've got a meeting to get to here in a couple of minutes. Two things I love in the morning: coffee and Eric's coffee. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, tropicaltidbits.com is the website. Follow along with the recon. Now, bada bing, bada boom, y'all are going to be more educated, which is so great. 3:30 today, we'll do a quick update live, and then 9 p.m. tonight, we'll do a full update leading into the 10 o'clock broadcast. But with recon coming in, tropicaltidbits.com. I guess Levi's doing an update at noon. Definitely check that out if you want to be super nerdy. Otherwise, I'll be posting little bits of information as well through the day. Thank you for hanging out. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. I will see you all live 3:30 on all of our social channels, and I will type the correct date. What